Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sanity Drive podcast, where we explore the fascinating world of mental health and development. And my name is Nosarieme Abey, and today we'll be diving into a topic that affects millions of people worldwide, but often just flies on the radar, and that is because we don't pay much attention to it. So the topic is dual malnutrition-associated neurodevelopmental disorder, and so I say, buckle up, folks. We're about to take a wild ride through the human body and the brain. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So picture this. You are at a buffet. You've got two options. One on the side, there is mountain of junk food, and on the other side, there is barely anything at all. So now imagine your brain is the diner. Scary thought, right? And that's essentially what we're dealing with when we talk about dual malnutrition-associated neurodevelopmental disorder. If you're of reproductive age, thinking about having kids, or you just care about the future of our society, this one is for you. So let's go right away. First and first, what exactly is dual malnutrition-associated neurodevelopmental disorder, for short, DMAND? I know it's quite a mouthful, so let's break it down one after the other. DMAND is a condition where the brain doesn't get to develop properly, and this is due to two opposing nutritional problems: too much of wrong stuffs and not doing the right stuff. So I mean, if a child experiences both undernutrition and overnutrition during the critical period of development, you might even be thinking, how? How can someone be undernourished and also be experiencing overnutrition at the same time? Well, it's a common thing, and it's even more common than you ever imagine, especially in the developing countries where nutritional resources are limited. And this doesn't have to say that the developed countries don't also grapple with this, especially when we're not conscious of the dietary content plan. So demand is like trying to build a house with chocolate bars, as beautiful as chocolate bar would be for bricks, and using air for mortar. I'm sure this doesn't work in the nearest future, and even in the soonest future, if there is anything like that, the house will go down. So imagine a child who doesn't get enough nutrients, enough essential nutrients during the critical period of development, like protein, vitamins, and minerals in their early years of life. This is undernutrition. So as the child grows older, they then just suddenly have access to some high calorie diet, and this high calorie diet is now also lacking the right nutrients. This leads to rapid weight gain, and you just see the child being obese without addressing the fundamental or the underlying nutritional deficiency that already existed. Then we have overnutrition. These two double whammy malnutrition have a very serious consequences on the child's development, and that is why demand is a great threat to the child's neurodevelopment. Here's a fact that I'm sure a couple of us know: the brain uses about 20% of the energy made in the body. And I'm talking about this small part of the body, the 3-pound organ in the body, being an energy guzzling powerhouse. So when it doesn't get the right fuel, when it doesn't get the right amount of fuel that is needed for its utmost performance, especially during the critical period of development, things can go haywire. It's like running a high performance car on a mixture of rocket fuel and water. It's not a great combo, not at all. So why is it important that we talk about this? Why is DuMAND of global health concern? The statistics are saying this. Although there are no special or specific statistics on DuMAND consequences or DuMAND's effect on society, but we have leveraged on the reports on undernutrition and overnutrition in combination and its effects, or the amount of people that are under this age. UNICEF reported 149 million children under the age of 5 that are stunted due to chronic undernutrition, and 38.9, yeah, that are overweight. And many of these children are at the risk of dual malnutrition-associated neurodevelopmental disorder. And the region that has been tagged that has most of this effect is low to middle income countries, where there is different fluctuations in the economic changes. So we're seeing this particular part in Africa, Asia, and even Latin America. And this does not say that the well-developed countries don't also have their own statistics. They do, and they also have this DuMAND happening in their own countries. So it's just that it's more prominent or more common with us. It's common with us in this part of the world. So take a moment to think about your last meal. This is a challenge. Was it balanced, or did it have a good mix of nutrients in the right combo, or was it just a rush and munch side thing? Well, no judgment, please. We're just trying to get ourselves aware of our dietary content plan, and more like a food for thought, isn't it? Nothing personal. So let's go right into some science behind DuMAND. I promise to sprinkle in some fascinating neuroscience along the way, not going too much into the depth of the neuroscience, but just some nitty-gritty about dual malnutrition-associated neurodevelopmental disorder as it starts, and what the science really is. So it starts in the womb. Neurodevelopment starts right from conception, and it continues through the first few years of life. And during this time, the brain is like a sponge that is rapidly growing and making some very crucial connections. And during this critical period of development, usually tagged the first 1,000 days, it's absolutely very critical for the proper brain development. And I have to point this out, that neurodevelopment occurring at the early stage of life can be modulated by some very critical factors like nature, nurture, and self-organization. I'll try to give you a brief about it. For nature, it's talking about the lineage interaction. That means the gene that was passed across to you. You can't do anything about what has been passed across to you. It's imprint. It's more like an ID that you're carrying from your previous generation. That is one side. And then we have the nurture part that has to do with some interaction that gets to happen as a child is growing, as the neurodevelopmental processes is happening, and some of which could be chemical exposures during pregnancy through to the early stage of development. Nutrition, and that is what we're talking about today. The kind of nutrients a child has opportunity or get exposed to early in life also tend to determine what the neurodevelopmental process or what the neurodevelopment will eventually be. So there are some, and the third one before I move on is self-organization. That's talking about the right connection being made between cell-to-cell interaction. We have self-organization within the cell itself. So sometimes there might be some failure, there might be some alteration in school, which could then lead to neurodevelopmental disorder. And it doesn't have to say that everything that results in neurodevelopmental disorder later in life is as a result of DuMAND. There are lots of factors that could modulate neurodevelopment, as I have mentioned, just that nutrition is one of it. And if there is anything we can do about it, if we can prevent it, then we have to know and then take actions to prevent it. During neurodevelopmental processes early in life, there are some key process that must happen, and there are some nutrients that play some key roles. Let me just quickly mention some of them, like neurogenesis, which means the formation of neurons. The new neurons are being made, and proper nutrition during this period is very critical. For example, protein and folic acid. Protein, I had opportunity of working on protein deficiency, and this forms a major part of my doctoral research. And I got to know that protein deficiency can leave in some imprints transgenerationally. Some generations to come will pay for the debt of the protein that you don't take today. And this can then lead to some neurodevelopmental or neurobehavioral consequences in later life, or even at adolescence of the child. Those were some of the things that I was able to pull out during my doctoral research. And some of those things can't even be reversed. So if we have opportunity to prevent it, we do now. We're familiar with folic acid. If a woman during the reproductive age doesn't take enough of folic acid, the child may be at risk of spinal bifida. So some of these essential nutrients are very crucial for the neurodevelopmental process. Another process I would like to mention during neurodevelopment is synaptogenesis, where we have connections being made. Synapses are being formed between neurons so that there will be complete cycle of interaction. Nutrients like omega-3 fatty acid plays very vital role in this process. And the third I will speak on is myelination. Myelination is the process by which you have fatty sheets forming around the nerve fibers so that there is fast transmission of impulse within the neuron. So iron, iodine, those are just the two that I can recall now, are very much particularly important for myelination. Before I move on, I remember one very important process, which is pruning. This is where unnecessary connection, pruning means unnecessary connections are removed from the brain. As the brain is developing, there are some connections that are made, and so as time goes on, the brain just feels, I don't think this connection is necessary, and then it starts pruning it off. It takes away some of these connections. This process can be influenced by a child's experience of nutrition. So as it is taking away the ones that are really not necessary, there are some necessary connections that it also prunes, because the brain has, in a way, tried to make up for the nutritional inadequacy. It shuts down some processes that may not be important now, but will be important in the nearest future. And so because it has shut down or pruned those connections, the child develops without having those essential connections. And when it is needed, when it is to be recalled, it is not there. That becomes a defect for the child. So that is why pruning can be good, and if it is not properly done, it can also be a major problem. Nutrition and a child experience are some of the things that influence pruning. And that's why you see some neurobehavioral scientists tell you that, okay, when your child is growing, there's some things you try showing the child, the drawing and all those things. When a child is growing in the midst of those things, it becomes an imprint. The child is going to be, okay, I've seen an artist that the child from age 1 or 2 has started painting. It's because of the experience she has had with them. So there's a part of that brain that has been cognitively developed. So the child can get painting at any point in time. And at 3, she was already making some mad paintings. It's because of the experience that this connection has left. Please, that was just a digression. Let's move on. So if a child doesn't get the right nutrients during this critical period of development, moving on, it can lead to some slowdown in the neurodevelopmental processes. For example, if a child lacks iron, it can lead to reduced myelination, and so there is slowdown in the neural transmission, which can then affect cognitive function. So here is where it gets a little bit tricky. If that same child who didn't get enough of these nutrients early in life now gets exposed to high-calorie diets, as I mentioned earlier, that is low in nutrients, it can exacerbate the developmental issues, because there is sudden flux of calorie that can lead to inflammation of the body and even the brain. And I tell you, neuroinflammation underlies most neurodegeneration or decline in the brain function in later life. So, and moreover, the rapid weight gain that we see in some of this high caloric feeding, and you just see the child blooming up, can lead to insulin resistance. And you know, insulin resistance is not just about diabetes. We know that it's connected to diabetes, because the brain's primary fuel is glucose. When the metabolic process is affected, it also has a feedback problem on the brain. Despite the fact that insulin resistance has also been linked to a defect in the hypothalamic adrenal axis, that's HPA axis. There is also still a negative feedback response on the cognitive function and even some hormonal dysfunction, which could lead to mood disorders in later life. Here, I'm trying to point out, I've started even pointing out some consequences, and I would like to let you know that it's not just about feeling a bit foggy or having trouble concentrating. We're talking about some potential lifelong impact on the cognitive function, the behavior, or even the mental health of the child. It's like trying to update so as a child grows, and you're not trying to now give the child some good food. You have to take good after they've gone beyond the developmental or critical period of development. It's now like you're trying to update your smartphone's operating system with a corrupted file. So things won't just go or run smoothly. Here's a kicker. DuMAND doesn't just affect individual. It has its ripple effect on society. So when a child grows and becomes aggressive, he's not going to just be aggressive to him or herself. He's going to be aggressive on neighbors. And that has its own ripple effects on the society. Imagine a generation struggling with learning difficulties. We know that won't be good for our generation or generations to come. Some behavioral issues or even mental challenges. So it's not just a personal problem. That is what I'm trying to put out there. It's a collective one, it's a society one, and this is why our response should also be collective. We challenge ourselves to a more conscious dietary content plan, especially at the critical period of development. It's not just about eating quantity, but the quality matters. And if there is anyone you can lend help to get a quality nutrients, please do. That will help the society. So please don't despair, and there is hope at the horizon. And like I mentioned, the good news is DuMAND is preventable. Forget about some of those consequences that I've mentioned. We can prevent it by having balanced diet and also educating as many people as we can. So I'm trying to wrap up now, and I'm trying to say that a key takeaway for you is that think about your diet. Think about the diet of your kids. Think about the diet of your neighbor, the ones you can. And the more natural colors you include, the more likely you are to get a good balance of nutrients. That may be hypothetical though. You can have a lot of colors and and it's not still a good diet. So next time you go to a grocery store, challenge yourself to get something good into your basket or your cart, so it gets more healthy diet going, especially for people or children who are at the developmental age. So as we wrap up today, DuMAND is caused by a combination of overnutrition and undernutrition, and it can be serious. It can impact the brain in the long term, and also transgenerationally. So it's not just a personal issue, it's a societal one. So we have to also tackle it collectively. But the good news is it can be prevented largely through balanced nutrition and also through education. And so, folks, you've got the power to make a difference, one meal at a time. Whether you're planning a family or you already have kids or you have someone making kids around you, just try as much as you can to impact. Or you don't even belong to any one of these classes. You just want to keep your own brain in a top shape by being aware of dual malnutrition-associated neurodevelopmental disorder. The first step is preventing it. So let us try as much as we can to prevent it, and it will definitely work for all of us. So that's all for today on Sanity Drive podcast, and I want to thank everyone who has listened to this podcast up to this point. And if you found this information valuable, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend, leave us a review, put in your own comments so that other people can also learn from it, and hit the subscribe button so that next time we put up something, you'll be able to get notified. And until next time, this is Nosarieme Abey, reminding you that your brain has the right fuel. And when it does have the right fuel, the drive for sanity keeps moving forward.
Same drive, I'm on the same drive. No more doubts, I'm feeling alive. With every mile I leave the past